Hello and welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. My name is Rory Graham and I'm your host, and today we have the pleasure of having with us Kathy Swarmstad from the James River Writing Company. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And you are in Williamsburg, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you give us an overview of what is the James River Writing Company?
Well, it's a sole proprietorship. I am pretty much it. However, when I need someone else to work with me on design, let's say, layout, that sort of thing for ads or whatever it might be, I do have a little network of other professionals who are able to help me out. So that's something that I keep in the back of my mind always. But the James River Writing Company is something I started when I moved here from California. And I was interested in doing more writing work, and I do writing, freelance writing, proofreading, and editing work for businesses, and I also do some creative work as well.
Right. Now you moved from San Diego, was it?
That's correct.
That's a long move.
Yes, it is.
And you were a writer back then?
That's right. I became a published writer in '85. I wrote what was called a romantic spy thriller for about a year and a half weekly. So you had to write constant cliffhangers, you know.
Like the old movie serials.
Yes. And it went over very well. My picture appeared with the column, and people would stop me in the supermarket, for instance, and say, "I know who you are," you know, and they'd want to know about the series, and it did quite well. So that was my first foray into published writing, and I got hooked on it. And then some years later, I got into corporate writing in marketing departments and so on. So
when was that article thing running? Was that running when the spy stuff was all the rage?
Well, it actually came from a true account. People that I know were working over in the Far East in some undercover work, and so I kind of developed it out of what they were doing. But yes, there was a good bit of that sort of thing going on at the time.
I know. You know, when I was younger, a lot younger. At one point, there was the Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Wild Wild West and Girl from U.N.C.L.E. and Get Smart and all these because of Goldfinger and because James Bond had just popularized that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's get into what you're doing. Let's say for businesses. We'll leave the creative writing for a second. Let's just talk about business services, because you have a really nice list of things you help businesses with.
Yes, the thing is about businesses, I sort of work in the background. You have businesses who need different kinds of marketing help. They want brochures, or they want their website redone. They want direct mail pieces or newspaper advertisements. So there's a whole wealth of different types of business writing that can be done. And those of us who are freelancers get into most of that. Some people are specialists. They work only in healthcare, for instance, or for legal purposes. But I'm what you'd call a generalist, and get into all kinds of different industries and different kinds of materials that people need. Annual reports, plain old ordinary business letters sometimes.
So does that start with a discussion with the business about, let's say they're going to do a brochure, so you have to learn about the business and the product and everything, and they give you all that information, and then you create something that's readable and
That's right.
and that transfers the sales message.
Yes. The thing is, your first question is usually, who is your audience?
Right.
And from there you start collecting information. Usually the business can supply you with a great deal of that, but oftentimes you have to get into more research. So you go online, or you make other calls, or you have interviews with people to get a good solid start to whatever it is you're writing. But the main thing is usually to boost a company's business, bring in more interested parties, and so that's what your That's what your goal is.
Right. And I'm sure that your writing has a lot of parallels when we're writing a video, as we do all kinds of other writing too. But when we write for a video production, we're always looking at it from the viewer's point of view. What's in it for me?
That's
because
right.
that's what they're thinking. I'm sure that's probably the same with you. That when you do a brochure, you're looking at it from. That's
The
why you ask who's
customers.
your audience.
Right.
Okay.
And a lot of the time, you're not talking about we as if you're the company. You're talking to the consumer, so you're using a lot of the word you. You want this, you want that. Whatever their desire is, that's what you're playing to as a writer.
Okay. And now of course, you named a couple of things. You do brochures and
Newsletters.
proposals.
Yeah, proposals, RFPs they call them. I've even done grant writing, so on and on. There's just
Right.
a whole plethora of things that you can write. Some people just want you to write headlines. They want more punch in their headlines. So they'll engage your services just to do something like that.
Right. Now, a lot of times this is because the companies do not have an in-house person that does it, or maybe they're swamped, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing now. Large companies especially have two different ways of looking at writers. Either their marketing departments are just so swamped with work that they have to go to an outside resource to help with projects. On the other hand, because of our economy, some companies have cut back, and one of the first places they'll do that is with a marketing department.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So
This should be one of the last places,
yeah,
but it's one of the first.
but they just go and remove people. And in that case, that's another time that they'll turn to an outside resource. It saves them money. They get a good professional job. They don't have to pay the person's taxes or insurance, so it's a win-win for them.
Right.
Certainly.
Okay, so now let's move to the creative side, because you do both.
I do.
Okay, so let's talk about what you've done on the creative side.
Well,
I found that very interesting. I like the spy thing to begin with,
But that was an interesting time. I enjoyed it too, actually. But I do a lot of magazine writing, and I like to write about history. I write different things, but I do like to write about history, and we live in an area here where there's so much of it, it's just, it's endless for bits of information. I've written about the Godspeed, one of the 3 ships, for instance, that brought our settlers here back in 1607. I write about colonial medicine, instruments, things that were used back then, which some of them are kind of gruesome.
I was going to say pretty barbaric.
Yes, we wouldn't want to use them today, I don't think. But then again, I've written recently about soup, for example. So there's lots of different things. It kind of depends on what the magazine is looking for, or something that I particularly like. I'll go and pitch that to a magazine. But I also have a children's book up on Amazon Kindle right now. And it's a long title, it's called Boggle's Boneyard and the Case of the Purloined Pomeranian. And it's it's for 7 to 10-year-olds, and it's a takeoff on the Holmes-Watson idea. Boggles is a bloodhound, and he works with what was called then an inquiry agent, Sir Bertram. And this is in 1895 London, when Queen Victoria was still on the throne. So it's a lot of fun to write. There's humor in it, but there's a good bit of mystery, and all that sort of
Well,
thing.
you certainly have a wide variety there.
Yes, yes. I don't know why that occurred to me to do a children's book, but I've had a lot of fun doing it, and it's going to be a series.
Well, that's good.
And I'm also writing a contemporary romance, which is an adult book, of course, and other things in the making. So I keep busy.
Well, you
with
sound
that.
like you keep busy. So and being that it's just something different all the time, I imagine that's kind of like me. I come from a background where I was doing a quality control manager. I was doing testing all the time, same thing, very boring. to do. But I love this business so much, I guess because it's so different from that it's different all the time. It sounds like with your writing, it's different all the time. So you never really get bored with it, you know.
And I actually, years ago, I was in your kind of business. I worked for a motion picture company in Hollywood. And so I got a little bit of insight into script writing and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between hiring a freelancer and hiring a agency.
Well, I think the most important thing is that if you're trying to save a little money, I think you're going to go for the freelancer, because most of us work out of our own home offices and we don't have the overhead that an agency has. It depends upon the kind of project, but I find that I have a lot of people who are both small businesses, mom and pop type businesses, as well as some corporate clients, and I can put together a network of people to do the project no matter what it is. But you'll find that a freelancer, normally I would say, is the hourly charge might be 3 or 4 times less expensive than the agency charge would be, because they have a large overhead, they have a staff. It just makes sense.
Correct. Okay. All right. And so what are your goals as a copywriter and an editor?
Well, my motto is helping you get the word out. That's what the James River Writing Company tries to help people do. I like to see people get more business all the time. I think that's something that's important to us all. I have a client, for instance, in Williamsburg, Illusions by Marcus. It's a hair salon and spa, day spa, and they've won the Best of Williamsburg contest through the Virginia Gazette every year. And I'd like to think that I've helped them do that with the ads that I've done for them and the brochures and just the general branding. We gave them a whole new branding image a few years ago, and it's done very nicely. So that's what you try to do for people, and that's what I will continue to work on.
You know, a lot of people, a great deal of people say, you know, I've always wanted to write a book, or I've had this idea for a book. What kind of advice do you have for people as far as being a writer, if they have an idea or they have something that they said, gee, I'd always wanted to do that?
Well, I would advise that they might check out some of the professional groups that they might join and learn a little more about it before they go fully into the whole process. There's Romance Writers of America, there's Mystery Writers of America. And I think groups like that are very helpful. I joined RWA years ago when I was first writing, which brought me into doing the spy novel that I did. It was very helpful. You have critique groups, people that can look over what you've done, give you some advice. They're professionals. They know pretty much how to put a novel together, and they'll help you out. I like to do that. I like to help new writers with their manuscripts, and I think that's important to get some real professional advice starting out.
Okay.
That's the first thing. But go for it. You know, if you've got an idea and you want to write a book, it's something you've always wanted to do, just get out there and go for it.
Right. Okay, well, that's good advice. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to mention?
I think we've covered just about everything. Okay. I'm delighted to be in this area because I think that there's a lot of potential we see a lot of businesses emerging all the time, and so I always look for people I can help with writing, and usually people that start businesses have a little trouble with the written word. They don't know how to spell, and they might not know how to string a good sentence together for a marketing piece. And those of us who are freelancers love to do that, so I'm looking for new people to help.
Okay. All right. Well, if you own a business, large or small, and could use some help with marketing materials, branding, image, and could use a good freelance writer, then give the James River Writing Company a call. Their contact information is at the end of this video and on this page. It's been a very nice having you here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Very interesting business, and you seem to have been very successful for quite a while now, so I hope that continues for you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.